Welcome to another episode of Flipping Miami. I am your host, Raul Balufe, and today I have a very special guest. He's actually a long-term friend. We've known each other probably since we were, maybe like 10 years old or younger or something. And we reconnected through social about a year or two back, and he's been into the digital marketing world. And I don't know exactly what he does, but he's more of like digital marketing. I know he was doing advertising, social stuff. He's developing a couple different things. So I think it'll be interesting to see this side of the business world and kind of like the online world. And maybe Brandon could share with us. His name is Brandon Gil. And I have him on, man. And I want to see if we pick his brain and see what's going on. Thanks for coming on, bro.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for reaching out and asking me to join, man. I'm truly honored. I know that yourself, man, just have been always doing your thing, and you've just been developing and growing so much. So it's awesome to be able to reconnect with you and now jump on this Zoom and have this conversation, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So dude, I know I personally know you from like high school and school and stuff, but I always like to start in like the story world, and then later on I want to get into like your businesses and what you do, and maybe we could probably structure it on how we can help real estate investors or realtors with what you do. But let's say we were to start, and we would let's say one of our listeners would have met you back in like high school. Who was like Brandon in high school? Were you a good student? Did you have did you play sports? Like what was that world like for you?
Yeah. So in high school, I did play sports, and the central focus of my life was sports and baseball. And I played baseball and sports my whole entire life. And, we were growing up doing this summer camp, everything together, and Sheila was playing ball and stuff. But, that's where my main focus was, and where a lot of like my effort and my ethic had gone towards. I was a good student, I paid attention, really for me, it was just like, if you pay attention in class, you don't really have to like worry too hard on the tests and everything like that. But yeah, just really no idea of the business world until really after college, a year after college, maybe after my first job, I guess you could say. And yeah, just complete transition from being that, I guess more so like an athlete, and then transitioning to focusing everything around business has just been an interesting development, like within myself, and kind of like making sure I maintain my identity and understanding, that your identity isn't necessarily associated with like what it is that you do in that transition. So it's been like an interesting path to see like, my own development through that too. But yeah, that's
awesome, man.
It's been night and day. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I love asking that question just to kind of see what, everyone comes from like a different background, everyone has a different story. And I love kind of hearing that. And I like what you mentioned about the identity of, especially like when you're younger, or where maybe right now you're listening to this and you're in high school, or maybe you're in college and you played some sports or you were in activities. Sometimes you think that that's like you forever, and you probably associate some kind of identity to it. But in reality, that's just things that you do or things you enjoy doing. So it's cool how he mentioned that, like, all right, I now have to transition to something, and I have to kind of like change what I thought my identity was. Dude, and Brandon, so let's say like you're leaving like high school, you're getting into the college world, or you're in college already. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do as far as business, or were you kind of just like floating until you figured little by little?
Yeah, so for myself, I even after high school, I was still on track to be an athlete and continued playing ball through college. So I went to the University of Arkansas in Little Rock and played all 4 years there. I was on scholarship, and really just the majority of my life has always been, and also because my parents were athletes as well growing up and through college. So that's really what I knew and what I was familiar with as well, and my exposure. But yeah, I guess you could say it was really focused on athletics. And then once I after that, it's kind of like what to do now. So, it was like floating around and kind of just making sure that I exposed myself to a lot of different things and see what it was that I did like, but most importantly, what it was that I didn't like, and start kind of attaching myself to what it is that I did see myself doing for the rest of my life and just enjoying it. So
because playing baseball for college is not easy. Like you got a ton of practices and games, and you got to still go to school and kind of get some decent grades and all. Like what you know, I was talking to another friend of mine who went through a similar situation. When was like that moment that you're like, oh shit, like I'm probably not gonna, or I don't want to pursue going pro, or I'm probably not gonna go pro. Like, what happened that moment? Like, was it one moment where was it kind of like gradually you were thinking about it, and like, what was that like? Like, thinking, shit, I've spent so much time on this stuff. Now I have to transition to something to make money or professional life. Like, kind of what was your mindset around all that stuff? Were you positive about it? Were you kind of like beat
That's
up?
a great question. Honestly, that's like really interesting. And I really haven't even maybe reflected on that myself enough to, wow. So honestly, I think like I was just trying to make the most out of every moment that I was in, and kind of just take everything with an open heart and open eyes, and just understanding that I wasn't necessarily attached to what it was that I've done in the past or what it was that I thought I had to do into the future. Really, it was just kind of being receptive to everything and understanding where I was going to go from there. So it was definitely positive, and being positive is what it allowed me to keep those open eyes and think clearly, to be able to shift the path into the way that I saw myself going towards. And really, it's a path that you don't even know the end to, until you get there. So it's just kind of making sure you're moving in the right direction, moving in a direction that you're happy with, and just staying open and being able to adapt.
That's good, man. That can't be easy. I mean, everyone goes through kind of like their challenges in life and stuff. So I think just like the principle that like keep your kind of eyes open on what's the good shit that can come out of this,
Yeah, man.
And so what was like your first like little glimpse of business or professional life? Like after the baseball thing, what was your first job, or what was your, like, how did you get started in that world?
So first was my exposure. I had gone to a professional consulting firm, like a professional sales consulting firm, and we were selling products, or the company was contracted by other companies to sell their products and services. So I was assigned AT&T Business Solutions, which is like, nobody likes the AT&T guy. No one likes the AT&T salesman, like walking into your business, like, dude, get out of here. So that was like my first exposure, and it was probably one of the tougher things that I've done even now, like to this date, in understanding that, it's hard to sell a product that not just like other people don't want to buy or hear from you. And then also like maybe you don't believe in yourself. So for me, it was, just going through that experience, and I kind of had that lack of fulfillment because it was something that I was putting time and effort into and didn't really believe in it fully myself, or just wasn't, I guess, so in depth or diving into that. So yeah, I guess like that was my first exposure. And then from there, I went to more corporate life. I went to like a Fortune 500 company, Discovery Networks, which is like Latin American, over in Blue Lagoon in Miami. So like they did like Discovery Channel, like Animal Planet, TLC, and they essentially, I've like helped manage the promos and the commercials in between like the shows and everything. So I'd done that, and it was there when I was in that corporate setting that I realized that this wasn't essentially the path that I wanted to go down. It was instead something that I wanted to be the person that was creating structures and creating systems to implement and have people, carry out something to achieve something greater,
That's dope. That's really dope. And so you started like in that sales job, and I think Grant Cardone, I've heard him say, like, if you really want to learn sales, like, go sell something you don't like, sell something you don't believe in. And I think like unknowingly you did that. And I think it's good if you're listening to this and you're kind of like, you want to get into an entrepreneurship like type of world, but you don't want to start your own business yet. Definitely get into sales. Something about sales, and that just catapults you, man. It changes your personality. It makes you get out of your comfort zone. You got to talk to people. You got to sell. You got to like figure it out, And I think it's amazing what that could do to somebody, even if you're shy or whatever. So. And then so transition. So from what I understand now, you own your businesses. You have a couple things going on. So what was that like when you decided to jump into like doing your own thing? Because you were working for this Fortune 500 company, you worked for the other one. what happened in your life that you're like, all right, that's it. It's time for me to start my own thing. Was it like one decision? Was it a couple different decisions? Like what happened there?
I think it was just me finding my own path. I had always had like an expectation of what it was that I wanted to do to find fulfillment out of my life, and really getting exposed and still being very early in the business stage of my life. I had started recognizing what it was that I needed to do to forge that road to get down there, in this new kind of arena, in this new industry. So, like once I had recognized that, and I had always felt like I had the potential to be able to do that, when I decided to leave and go ahead and do my own thing. It was actually like initially it was a business with two other partners. It was an agency, and we had ran that for a couple of years, and then from there, I had gone and transitioned into doing my own agency, and then expanding my businesses from there as well.
Love it, bro. That's sick. That's really cool. So yeah, I mean, it just goes to show like you could be in different. You could start your. I think a misconception is people that are like, oh, I want to be my own business owner. They want to start as a business owner. It doesn't always work that way. It's okay to start working for other people, and then figure your way out from there. So I think that's awesome. I actually think that there's two ways to get into an industry and almost guarantee you success. It's one is work for somebody that's doing what you want to do, or two is hire a coach or a mentor that's doing what you want to do. So either you pay the money or you get paid to do it.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that, because the structure and the systems that I had experienced in my Fortune 500 company, I was able to go ahead and implement that into my businesses to go and expedite that process. So really for me, having that background did help propel, my business and develop it further than I guess what it would have done if I was running around and spinning circles on my own,
Yeah. In essence, like that Fortune 500 company was like acted as like a mentor or coach to you, because you were in there, you got to see like what really went on with like, the tech and the sales and the marketing and stuff, which probably helped you. So share with us now, man, like what do some of your businesses looks like now? What do you do as far as, to produce income, and what do you do to help others, things of that nature?
Yeah, definitely. So right now my agency, and it's grown to over 30 people. So, and that's like global workers. I probably have about half of them here in Florida, and I have like the other half also outside of the country. Through that, we're just, servicing clients. I've got my sales team automated and that whole process. So I'm able to like get new clients, onboard them, put them into our system, and then also service them to the quality that we need to. So being able to do that, and really the agency, I never imagined myself being an agency owner. Really, that was something that I was able to more so develop as an asset and make it profitable so that I could sustain my entrepreneurship habit, I guess you could say. So I could just essentially get any business that I wanted to and just throw it into the grinder, like the system that I'd created, and have, something come from it. So now being able to do that, I've got, a few different businesses. I've got like some really strong partnerships in different industries. And, I've been able to like put my mind to them and expand them just because I've had, everything else systemized. So really it's just been focusing on systemizing and structure, and maintaining quality, and then from there, how I would be able to, go ahead and expand further off of anything that I wanted to do in my life. It's like so much to do, and so much opportunity, and industries are always coming up out of nowhere. So
that's sick.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And as far as like the agency, what exactly is the agency? Is it like an online marketing for specific types of people? Is it like social media? But what exactly does the agency do?
So we're full service. So we do everything from website development to social media marketing, pay-per-click, your whole like paid spend and organic spend, everything as far as nurturing leads, the whole ecosystem of what you need to do to develop lifetime customers from new customers that you're going to acquire. That's what we provide online, and we don't have a limit in the industry. Actually, and it's interesting because one of the people, or multiple people that I have encountered, like through my path have been saying, focused on one niche, and it's easier to scale up, so on and so forth. And I get that because it's easier to structure it. But then also being able to have this flexibility has allowed me to be exposed to other industries that I'm now into myself. So really it was, and those clients have become partners. So it's like, just been one of those things to where, being able to be full service has allowed me to really dive in and understand different clients' businesses and how it pertains to the industry, and then have a good idea of how to succeed and ultimately scale up from there from a business development standpoint.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So basically, like what Brandon is saying is like his bread and butter is like the agency, which what it does is basically focuses on acquiring leads, nurturing leads online through different paths. Probably paid, like you mentioned, paid ads. There's probably SEO in there, Facebook, all these things. And what he's saying is like it's really interesting that since he opened his agency up to doing different types of marketing to different types of agencies, he's been able to form relationships with people to then jump into different markets or different realms of business. And he probably offers a specific value online and they offer a specific value in something else. And like, so that's pretty good. So you've moved really fast, really quickly. What do you think now let's talk a little bit about like the down. And especially me, I make mistakes every freaking day, Oh, yeah. What are some of like the biggest mistakes you think you've encountered from like when you started the business to now that like some big mistakes that come to mind, like, damn, I really messed up there or this and that. Like, what are some like, talking to like your younger self that you're like, bro, don't do that again. Those types of things. What comes to mind?
How much time do you have, man? I've got like tons of them. So many screw ups, you know what I mean? I guess like really more so it's just telling my younger self, like, you are going to screw up and not to be discouraged from it. And it's something that you need to go ahead and capitalize off of that experience and learn. I've lost a lot of money in the process. We all have, I'm sure, in developing businesses, and really it's just keeping your eyes open so you could understand how that $1 that you lost is going to save you 10 into the future. So really it's just, not getting discouraged because you're going to screw up and you have to screw up. And those screw ups are actually essential to, creating really solid foundation and really solid structure for your business for it to thrive. So, really that and contracting, just make sure like you're always covered in your contracts. And the most important part of a contract is learning how to get out, or just making sure how you're not going to get financially screwed. Really like those are like the two biggest things that I could think of,
That's cool that you say it, because in real estate, like a big portion of the world is contracts, right? You put a property under contract, and in wholesale, how it works is you put a property under contract, then you essentially sell that contract, or you sell the rights to that contract. So, it's so funny how it comes like full circle. You got to think about it. Whatever industry you're in, put the stuff in writing, man. That shit's so important. And then like, and if you don't know what you're doing, pay $1,000 for an attorney or whatever to be able to help you out with that. I'm sure that, and as the deals get bigger for you and for you listening, you're gonna need to know that stuff. And all it takes is just reading it, learning from other people, just hearing about the mistakes that like Brandon has made, that I have made on contracts, learning from that, and just going forward and doing that. And that's a good piece of advice that like a lot of people don't mention. Like it's because people talk about like the glam and all the stuff that could be, which is possible. However, no one talks like, it's very few times do I hear like, yo, guys, check your contracts, But it's really true though, man. And it's really like a marriage essentially, to where you're coming into business and everybody's excited, and it's like a honeymoon phase, and it's like, we're gonna make so much money together, we're gonna see so much success, and you don't really think about how to essentially sever from that contract if things go wrong and stuff, and at least being mindful of how to be protected if things are gonna go ahead and go down that path and go wrong. So yeah, man, 100%. It's like just definitely making sure you're covered on it. It's really formality, man. It's really like nothing that's like pulling teeth. Contracts are something that are just a part of it, and there's like negative connotation to it. Really, it's just making sure everybody's protected and feeling comfortable. Oh yeah, and I got a question. Hopefully, it doesn't get you into trouble, but even me, like I've had many partnerships that have been great, many that have been not so great. And I heard you say partnership in the beginning. And I think like in the younger generation, like our age, under 30, we want to do stuff with people and with like people we know. And I think that's fine. But what do you think is like some big mistakes that people make with partnerships, or that you feel you made with partnerships that maybe someone listening to this can help avoid from hearing us kind of like talk about it?
Wow. Yeah, that's great. I think like one of the biggest things for me is just like don't forget that the path in business is just like so hard and so stressful. And it's like really easy to point the finger at one another, and it's really easy to, feel less appreciated. And, it really, through all of that, it's just making sure that you guys both like come together, whoever the case is, like you're forming a partnership and realizing, look, like it's going to get really tough. We can't think irrationally through these things. We have to think very rationally in order to, come out of it and always have like that positive outcome. So really it's just understanding like stuff's going to go really bad. It's going to get extremely tough. I'm very thankful that like after my initial business and going and developing on my own, I did it essentially all by myself, and I didn't have any partnerships. And I'm very fortunate to have gone through a lot of these things by myself, because if I had a partner, I would have no idea. I mean, I could have put him in serious financial jeopardy with the decisions that I've made. I was able to be more reckless because I didn't have to be considerate of anybody else. And based off of like the roles that you take in the business, unfortunately, the liability of the role that you take, it's like you incur much greater risk in one role versus another role. Not that one is more important than the other, but really it's just like never losing sight of what it is that you guys want to accomplish through all of like the tough times, and just essentially just working through it.
That's good. Yeah, man. Partnerships are not easy. It's like a marriage in business. Like, there should be paperwork. I think that I have a couple tips. There definitely should be things in writing, as good as friends or as good as you guys might know each other, or maybe don't know each other. Always put like your roles and responsibilities in writing, and each of you guys sign it. And it's okay if they change. If they change, just change it on the piece of paper and sign it again. Also, there's if you haven't read the book Traction, or there's a follow-up book called Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel really talks about partnerships. And it's a really good book to kind of read about all that stuff. And because, in this world, you can't really do it alone. Whether if you have your own business, but if you really want to expand, even if you don't call them partners, but really some of the people that work with you end up being close to partners and managers. You got your sales managers. Those people are almost like partners in sales, partners in marketing. So I would look at this and like listen to what like Brandon is saying. Like, man, this shit's gonna happen, right? Like, you're gonna get into business. You're gonna make stupid investments. You're going to do the stupidest things. It's just gonna happen, no matter how smart you are. And if you have partners, other people involved, you have to be transparent, honest, those types of things.
Big time.
What are some things like right now that like you use like with management that kind of like helps you out? Like, do you talk to your team almost daily, weekly? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, definitely talk to them daily. Every single morning, we've got an optional 7 a.m. meeting to where anybody could jump onto the Zoom call, and anything that they want to like discuss further, or whatever the case is, you could jump on and have that platform for open communication and just go over things. Maybe if there's like confusion, whatever the case is going on. But yeah, like talking to them, daily through that, and then also independently having meetings and setting times and making sure we're on the same page. And then just collaboratively in our workspace that we use to just like talk amongst the different things that are going on with the business, like the things like the platforms that we use to actually push the work forward and work off of. Just always over communicating, always making sure that you leave the note of making sure that someone like checks up on something, and always like following up yourself into where you left off in the communication platform, and not just saying like, oh yeah, like I told them to do this and just kind of like forget about it. Just always like making sure you follow up. So yeah, man, daily between like new conversations and follow-ups for sure.
Communication is so crazy how important it is. Even if you listen to this and you're going to get you're thinking of hiring your first person, whether it's overseas or in your backyard, and I mean, how important has communication? It's just so crazy, it's like 10 times what you think it should be,
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, and a lot of times you're not even really considerate of what to communicate. Like for me, my biggest thing was, I felt like I was communicating everything that I wanted to get done with everybody. And I felt like I was giving the proper structure. But really where I was lacking my communication was the follow-up as well, earlier in my business too. So it was just like making sure that everybody was on the same page, making sure they understood everything they had to do, making sure everything was getting done, so on and so forth. So yeah, like follow-up is huge with me on that. What what about yourself? What is it that you do in your business to communicate with everybody? I know in real estate, it's a little different.
Yeah. So we use a platform called Slack. It's like an app that you can get for pretty much communicating with people on your team. It's like a little chat messenger thing. So I basically communicate with like my partner or like the COO, who pretty much like manages everything. I communicate with him daily, multiple times a day. And then we have a weekly meeting. And then once a week, we do a 30-minute meeting with each team member. So I do a weekly meeting with my partner, and I talk to him daily, and he mainly talks to them daily. And then I might talk to them once per week. So that's kind of how we structure it. Every industry is kind of different. I think like yours in the tech world, you might need a little bit more because there's a lot more nitpicky. I don't know. Maybe not, maybe so. But I think that's a great question. Like the communication is key. However you guys decide to do it and you structure your world, just keep that in mind, man. Like that's so important. So kind of like to overview this, like, so Brandon, he's got an agency for online advertising, for basically anything you need to generate and get leads online and be able to, scale that and do what you got to do. So I think he'd be a really good fit if you guys are looking to maybe get your presence more online, whether you got to build a new website, whether you got to do more advertising, SEO, all these types of things. And Brandon, maybe like, let's say someone's like just starting out and they don't really have a business yet, but they're like, crap, I want to get like I want to advertise my real estate services online, let's say, and I want to kind of do it myself for a few months. What are maybe some like tips or tricks that you do nowadays to like, tell somebody that they have a couple $100 in their pocket and it's like, they want to advertise that they're a new realtor or a new investor. Like, what would you do? Would you go on Facebook, Instagram? Would you do ads? Would you do a what? Like, kind of like, how do you think of that? Like for a complete like new person, what are some tips like now, 2020 that you think would be good?
Yeah. So definitely I would say before even investing into your outreach, you would invest into your content and just make sure that your content is something that's engaging and that people, once you do get in front of them, when you pay for that impression, there's something that'll resonate with them and you get as much engagement as possible, just makes you more profitable. It makes like the campaigns more profitable. So definitely investment into your content. And really like for a realtor, it's all about personal branding. So anything that there's a lot you could do organically, posting on your own respective social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There's a lot of research or a lot of information online that you could look up and see how to utilize each platform, to the fullest capabilities. But yeah, I think like even organically for realtors, you could just keep on putting content out, stay consistent. And if you're going to like start considering paid spend, really like just start, I guess, putting budget, but like if you're considering like $100 advertising spend, just start putting content or start putting advertising budget into like your general posts, just to get it more outreach and just to get, more engagement and understand your audiences more. With advertising budget, you got to understand that, initially when you spend, it's all about like testing. It's all about, understanding your data to then go ahead and essentially know how to set the parameters to scale up and then invest more advertising budget and reach the actual people that you want to, because you may not reach the people that you want to initially. So yeah,
understanding the data is important. And if I hope that doesn't scare you if you're listening, but basically what he's saying is like, if you are going to spend even $100 on Instagram advertising, Facebook advertising, number one, there's many videos on YouTube to figure out how to do that. Number two is, once you do spend that 100, set limits maybe on a daily, $10 a day or whatever it is. And just look at the results you're getting. Look at how many clicks, look at, how many people are filling out your form if you have a form, things like that. And what are some of the biggest things that what are like a big mistake that people do once they put like the first $500 in advertising, and like, what are some mistakes that you come and see and you're like, damn, you guys shouldn't do that,
Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of people sometimes will get excited or just want to see how their content performs into the market. So they don't really consider a long-term plan or what their actual goals are behind putting the money into the advertising or into the content. Like, you'll just say, yeah, I'm going to boost a post for $500. It's like, okay, now what, And then like the $500 that I did spend into it, how would I be able to maximize the information that I'm getting now from that $500 into the market to then go ahead and spend more. So really just, do it with a purpose. Just identify your goal behind what it is that you want to do with your advertising. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I think you'll be guided much more along the path that you need to go down for paid spend.
That's good. Yeah. The goal is big because like I can reason with the excitement of, all right, let's put $100 into this post or into this video. And, you got to make sure your call to actions are good. What your call to action is basically you boost the post, right? You put $100 to your listing. You want to put your listing out to all the people in Miami-Dade County. You got to make sure that the button that says like learn more or call me works. That's number one. And you got to make sure it's trackable and, test it. Instead of maybe putting 100 to one button, maybe put $50 to a learn more and $50 to a call me, I think that's kind of where you're getting at, right?
Yeah. And especially, I mean, if you're going to go ahead and let's say you have $5,000 that you're going to put in and you're like, I have some cash and, I want to put in advertising and see how it goes. Rather than just kind of putting it all in one piece of content, you're kind of like just betting on one horse to win. I would definitely diversify that either across different platforms or across different ad sets or different, kinds of content or whatever. And then from there, you're going to be able to see what reacts the most, or I guess like the best essentially in the market. And, you cut what doesn't work and you reinvest into what does work and you make duplicates and variations of what does work and, continue scaling up from there.
That's good, man. And I heard you say something earlier when I said like realtors and stuff, and you said personal branding. And I love that. I love that you said that because as like realtors or investors, what people are really buying is the other person, the house, obviously people are buying a house or selling a house, but what really gets the online presence, what I've seen, like the top names, them as them. Like they show their family, they show their, some of their personal life. It's not just like, here's my new listing. It's like, hey, I just got out of the gym and I'm heading to a new appointment. If you guys have any new listings, call me. Like something more personalized that like you're a human. How important would you say the personal like branding stuff is? Because I feel like people can get lost. Like personal branding, what is that? I guess like you've been in the world and you've done so much with it. And your definition, like what is personal branding? Like what should someone think about when they like start that personal branding journey?
Really, when you're going to think about your personal brand, you have to think about you. Like really the only thing that you can't replicate in this life is yourself. Everybody in the industry, whatever it is that you do, is going to have certifications that are equally or greater than yours. They're going to do a lot of great things or have like great case studies, whatever it is. But the way that you distinguish yourself is by talking, or I guess identifying what it is that's different about yourself and where you kind of want to focus on, and just creating content around those pillars to be able to communicate to people what it is that makes you or your business different. And that's what's going to get people to, really turn their head and say, oh, like that was different. Oh, I see like how he's different. It kind of cuts through the noise of what, everybody's saying about their products or their services. And, when in today's world, when you're getting hit with advertisements every single day subconsciously, now it's like walking, if you're watching TV, you just kind of like zone out through the commercials. Essentially the same thing now in the online space is the online shopper is getting more and more evolved. And so in order to be able to resonate with them the most, you do want to identify what it is about yourself that makes you different so you can communicate it to them. And then maybe somebody else resonates with that too. And then you cultivate your following and, whatever the case is that you want to develop for after that, off of those pillars that are unique to yourself.
That's good, man. That's really good. And it's funny because like when you the answers that you're saying, the principles are basically you got to start with, on the first one that I asked you, you said like kind of like start with the goal. When we talked about like the Facebook ads, like what is the goal with it? What is your end game instead of just boosting a post? And here it's like, well, if you want to do a personal brand, it's like, well, think about you first before spending marketing dollars. And what that might be is literally just 10 minutes of you sitting down with a piece of paper and a pen, like, all right, what do I want to accomplish with a personal brand? Like, what do I want people to know about me? Like, what do I feel is I can be a little bit different than the next guy. It's not better or worse. It's just different. Sure. What are some like people that you follow today that you feel have like a good personal brand It can be whichever space. It can be digital. It can be whatever. What are some of like the top personal brands right now that you think are popping?
Well, I mean, just to say something that everybody could relate with right now is probably like your guys like Grant Cardone. You know what I'm saying? Your guys like Gary Vaynerchuk. Everybody knows who they are. And they've also like really identified what it is that they focus on and built their brands around. Like, you know exactly what Gary is about. You know exactly what Grant's about when you see their piece of content and when you fall on their website or whatever the case is. So yeah, I would definitely like say like sticking to those guys. They stay true to themselves. They stay true to what it is that they've identified is going to distinguish themselves in this market. And then they go ahead and deliver it. Gary Vaynerchuk is a big value guy. He was one of the people that made that, I guess, he brought like a lot of awareness into like being able to give value before you go ahead and, ask for something before you receive it from a consumer. And, I think like if you just have the intent to, help people, or you have the intent to like provide value, it's going to be something that people are going to stay engaged with and want to listen to because they don't feel like they're getting sold. They're like, man, like this guy's giving me really good advice and really helping me out. And so I want to continue listening. And then from there, that's once you give that value, that's when you're able to start, kind of selling or upselling, or just at least start alluding to what you can do to help them out in their path. And, whatever like the purpose you think it may be for them watching the video.
Love it. I think that's good, man. There's a good book. I mean, it's old now, but I think that the principles will still be good. I think it's called like Jab, Jab, Right Hook or something. Jab, Jab, Punch from Gary Vee.
Yeah.
It's a really good book. It's probably like kind of a little outdated, but I would still recommend reading it because overall, like it just goes over that principle of like the jabbing is more like giving value, like for free. And I want to mention, don't get caught up in giving free stuff forever. Like there should be some kind of offer that you're doing because it's almost like a disservice if you don't offer your audience stuff. Because if you really are helping people, then your product or your service should help them get to a better goal. So I'm a huge proponent on the free stuff and all these things, but always make sure that there's some kind of product or service end in mind.
Absolutely. And that even goes like back to the goal of what it is that you want to accomplish and, giving out free content or whatever the case is, because you could give someone like a free piece of advice in a piece of video and kind of tell them what they have to do. But then when they get down to it and they're like, okay, I know I need to do this because this is what it is that I have to do. And they're like, wow, this is really hard, or I need support in this, or I need to develop a team from this, or whatever the case is. And then that's how you bring in your offer to provide even further value into helping them. It's like, okay, now they have the guidance from your video. Now they can have the support from you and your team or whatever it is that you want to accomplish for them. And really that's how you're able to transition from giving free, value content. Because that's, so, if you're giving, good content, you also have to understand that this is an opportunity to where people could encounter your brand for the first time. So it's essentially like a funnel, right? It's like you put out all this content and they run into you for the first time. And, then from there, it's like guiding them down across like, okay, you saw this piece of content, I know this is what you're interested in, and you're going to start probably taking action amongst these 3 steps that I had given you in this video. What are you going to need help with on those steps? How can I help you with those things? And then you introduce your offer, and then it all makes sense, it's like coinciding.
Yeah, that's really good. That's powerful. I mean, the online world is a whole different like beast from real estate and stuff, but I think a lot of the principles are similar. So if you're listening to this, don't get discouraged of all the things we're talking about. Actually, it's not that hard. If you have a phone and you have a Facebook and Instagram, you just literally take a video of yourself today, like doing like working, like physically working. I'm a big proponent of like when you're at a house showing it, or when you're getting a deal under contract or doing whatever, like video a piece of that, and then just be like, hey, if anyone has any questions on that, call me, or something like that. That's a good way to start. And that's the free content that Brandon's talking about. That's like a value add content. Like you're showing people what you're doing. You're maybe giving them a tip a day or something like that. And little by little, people will reach out to you like, hey, man, I'm getting my first deal, but I need help. Like, have you done this? And,
absolutely, man.
That's awesome.
You couldn't have said it better yourself. And really, and just expanding off of what you were saying, it's, just putting yourself out there, even if it's not like giving free advice, to be able to, go and just have like this, whole strategy in mind and how you're going to upsell them. If anything, it's just kind of putting yourself out there. And then, people, you stay on top of their minds like, oh, like I know Raul does real estate. And like, I think, whenever it comes to that time and you keep on putting out content, staying top of mind, when they think real estate, they're going to think Raul, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to move forward in what it is in your offerings that you can help them out with that. So definitely putting yourself out there is like just the biggest thing, and it just kind of all snowballs from there.
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah. I love I want to ask like one kind of big question. We'll start wrapping this thing up, but I love kind of having you on because it's such a different perspective. It's more of like the marketing side. Because this, almost every business, in this business particularly, is two things: it's marketing and sales. I mean, you have operations and all, but 90% of it is marketing and sales. So a lot of times we talk about the sales side, how to, leads, how to close leads, talk to sellers, things like this. And this is like an online marketing side, so I think it's really cool. Dude, so let me ask you this. I kind of asked this question more to get the wheels turning. When I say $100 million or to be worth $100 million or make $100 million, where does your mind go? What industry? What do you got to do to get the 100 mil?
If you want to make big money, you got to solve big problems. That's like, essentially what it is, I think. And, the more value that you could give and the bigger problems that you could solve, the bigger paychecks are going to come. You're going to, essentially, like if you're, not to knock off anybody that, let's say, may sweep floors, right? Nothing wrong with that. But, you're solving the problem of, of a dirty floor, and you're sweeping it and you're making it clean, right? And your paycheck is essentially going to reflect that. So then now if you're talking about global solutions, let's say you're maybe, helping, let's say, societies be able to introduce clean water, sustainable energy and things like that. Now you're talking about a bigger problem that you're solving, and it's going to be a lot more money that comes along with that. So, it's definitely that. And there's no one way to do it, right? You could have one business and completely scale it up based off what that industry is and, get to your 100 million. Or maybe you've got to be a little bit more thoughtful about the collective or the portfolio of businesses that you have and how you make all the dots connect to get there. So there's really no clear path, but definitely, I think like the bigger problem you solve, the bigger paycheck really is what it all comes down to.
I like that. I like that answer. Yeah, man. I mean, it's pretty simple. I heard something, I forgot who said it. I said like, man, my business model was, why doesn't just everyone give me $1 and then I'll have like $1 billion and I'll be fine, But the problem is everyone is thinking that same way. Everyone's thinking, I want $1. Everyone's thinking, I want $1. I want $1. So you got to find a way that like you can provide a value that everyone's like, I'll give you the $1. I'll give you the $1, I think that's awesome, man. Dude, Brandon, so I appreciate you coming on, dude. Like how can people like get to know you, maybe follow your agency, or if they want to talk about that, or maybe just follow you on Instagram or any websites? How can people kind of like connect with you?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever the case is, Brandon Gil, Brandon Gil 11 is Gil with 1 L is my Instagram handle. You could also go to my website, gilventuresllc.com or gil.marketing, or just, reach out to me wherever. I'd love to talk about, business development or like whatever the case is. And even just have like a friendly chat, man. Like it's really not all about business and it's a long-term game. So, if you could just not burn yourself out and really give your businesses the time to develop over a period of, imagine Raul, bro, imagine what you got now, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, and what you're going to develop, man. It's making sure that you could just kind of go down that path. So, even just friendly conversation, man, I'm up for it. Just hit me up. Yeah, it'd be nice.
I'll put your links and your Instagrams and all stuff on the show notes. And guys, so definitely check out Brandon on Instagram and his websites. And if you're interested in in the social media, online marketing, all those things, hit him up and I'm sure he'll help you out. So, all right, guys, thank you for listening again, bro. Thanks for coming on. If you're listening to this on iTunes, feel free to listen to it on YouTube, Raul Balufe, or on our website, raulbalufe.com. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.